most conservative of our brothers. The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. So this is an interesting topic this evening on the show. That is actually it's quite intriguing. Now, Jeff Steir is a senior fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research and heads its risk analysis division. Tell us more about the National Center for Public Policy Research.
Well, the National Center for Public Policy Research is a conservative think tank based here in D.C., and we look at policy issues. We kind of dig into the legislation. We dig into really read what our government is doing and try to explain those issues, which are sometimes complicated and controversial. And what I do at the Risk Analysis Division is try to communicate those complex issues in ways that the public can understand, so they really have a sense of what the government is doing, especially in terms of government regulation related to health issues.
You know, I grew up, this is something I don't talk about enough, I should talk about it more, but I grew up on my parents' what it was a tobacco farm.
Oh.
And we grew tons of tobacco, okay? And one of the rules of the game with my parents, because there were 8 boys and 2 girls, is that we could never smoke cigarettes.
That's a good rule.
I remember when we used to spray the tobacco for suckers and put DDT on it. And I remember when the DDT used to hit the ground and how it would kill any kind of insect in sight. I remember my parents talking about the dangers of these cigarettes and the nicotine and how it could be deadly for your health. And I must admit, I never tried smoking. Now, my brothers tried it for a few years, but thank God they all quit. And so there's always been this raging debate about banning smoking in public places. And they even try to ban smoking in outdoors, parks, and other places. And the other thing, too, smoking is part of the sin tax. I mean, the taxes on cigarettes are just so astronomical until people must really enjoy that habit to pay that price, because it has not curtailed them in any kind of way. Now, I am interested in this issue. You know, this is rare for me. I actually spoke to my guest a few minutes before coming on the air. I wanted to acknowledge that to the audience, because for me, it's all natural here. I have been on the air for so long. I think I've read so many books. We've covered so many topics. And there's so many things that I've experienced that I seem to think that I know enough to carry on a conversation, and you will provide all the meat and the substance. But there's some things that I want to get into. I was intrigued. And hello, yes, we see our live streamers. Yes, we see you. Yeah, it's www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. They're loading up the live stream. We see you. We're not talking about hash and marijuana here tonight, guys. I know some of our audience out there think they're going to get a high off just listening to this conversation. But I want you all to know that I'm not for any of this stuff. I have a problem with smoking, but I do know what an over-regulated government can wreak havoc on an industry, because the governments have these noble and wonderful ideas. The ideas are wonderful, but the things that they initiate and put in place to accomplish and achieve these agendas are just so outrageous, so far-fetched. I believe the government that governs least governs the best. I am a pure conservative, okay? I am a capitalist too. There's no question about that. But I want you, it's what I like to do, because you're our guest, and welcome to our show. And we're so glad to have you in our home tonight, Jeff. I want you to take the time to explain the issue to our very sophisticated audience, okay?
Well, I appreciate it. I'm a big fan, so it's a thrill for me to be here. But this is an important topic because, as you said, cigarette smoking is bad. Tobacco is bad for your health.
But let me stop you. There's so many other things that are bad. Driving while texting is bad.
Very dangerous.
Having sex without a condom is dangerous. I mean, D.C. has the highest HIV rate in the country. I mean, listen, drinking and driving is bad. Okay, there are a lot of things that's bad. Who gets to select the bad and decide to regulate it? It's a big issue.
Absolutely. And the question is, how do government regulatory agencies use their power? Congress gave the Food and Drug Administration authority to regulate tobacco a couple of years ago, and now they're just beginning to tackle how do they do that. It's kind of awkward for the Food and Drug Administration, which regulates products to be safe and effective, to be regulating cigarettes, which aren't very safe, and a whole range of tobacco products. And one of the areas where they may stumble is the fact that we're all very busy and we focus on all these different issues and all these different risks. We have to think about what products, as you said, are really risky and which one. I'm going skiing next week. That's dangerous. I hope the government doesn't ban that before next week. But tobacco products come in a range of risks. The most dangerous tobacco product is cigarettes. And the reason for that is because you burn and then inhale the tobacco. And when you burn tobacco, it is very dangerous. And then when you inhale it, you're inhaling all the bad stuff. Now, you're getting a nicotine hit, which may make you feel good. But the one take-home message is that nicotine is not the dangerous part of cigarettes. It's the addictive part, but it's not the dangerous part. The dangerous part comes from burning and inhaling tobacco. So there are other products that are on the marketplace, like smokeless tobacco. We're very popular in Sweden. They call it snus. These products have nicotine. They're addictive. And they're not health foods. They're not safe. But the risk profile of these products, because they're used differently, they're not burned and they're not inhaled, is a much better risk profile than for cigarettes. In fact, everyone says, oh, smokeless tobacco, doesn't that cause oral cancer? This is what blew me away when I read the science on this. The risk of oral cancer from smokeless tobacco is much lower than the risk of oral cancer from smoking cigarettes. So if we can persuade people to switch from the most harmful form of tobacco use, cigarettes, to far lower forms like smokeless tobacco or dissolvable tobacco, or even over to something called e-cigarettes, people significantly reduce their oral cancer risk, and eliminate the risk of heart disease, lung cancer, emphysema, all of the different terrible health effects from cigarette smoking. Now, I would rather people quit all tobacco use, all nicotine use, not be addicted to anything. But that's a very difficult task. And for those people who can quit cold turkey, that's great. The gum and the patch work for some people, but really do not work for a lot of other people because of the way it provides the nicotine. So if we can have alternatives for consumers who are trying to quit smoking to be aware of the lower risk products, I think that would be a win. But Congress made it very difficult for companies selling these products to tell the truth, to tell the scientific information. They cannot say the very simple fact that smokeless tobacco is less harmful than cigarettes, which, you can't begin to even argue that because it's so obvious. But companies today would be violating the law if they made that simple scientific fact. And by the government blocking that information, consumers are being denied accurate scientific information that could save their lives by helping them quit from the most harmful forms, cigarettes, to lower risk forms like smokeless tobacco if they're unable to quit their addiction altogether.
So the government has become more of the problem than the solution.
Well, not only that, they're beginning to block solutions. I mentioned e-cigarettes. E-cigarettes, I don't love the name e-cigarette. Those are products that have nicotine in them, and they're vapor. There's a battery, and you inhale the vapor. So there's no tobacco. You're not burning it. There's no.
Has this cigarette been clinically tested for efficacy and safety? Well, because that has been a serious criticism.
Yep.
And they call it the electronic cigarette.
Exactly. The ingredients in e-cigarettes are pharmaceutical grade products. The same nicotine that
have they been tested?
The e-cigarettes have not been on the market long enough to do the long-term epidemiological data that people would love to see. I would love to see the government do the study, but they're not. They're coming in and saying things like there are carcinogens in the e-cigarettes. Now, there are traces of carcinogens in your water. Everywhere you go. That doesn't mean it's unsafe. So they're scaring us about products that people can use to reduce their risk. And the government is stepping in and making it harder for people to get that information. So this is the free market.
But the problem with that, when there has been no efficacy to test the safety of the product, then you have no idea of the long-term impact of its usage on your body.
So we know the ingredients. We know what goes into them, at least the major ones. There are all sorts of people putting all sorts of weird stuff in things, and you can do a lot of weird stuff. But the main e-cigarettes that are that are made today have nicotine and propellants that are all used pharmaceutical-grade products. Now, you can say, well, we don't know what's in them, and we may never know, but we have to operate in an environment where people are smoking cigarettes. And when the government scared people about e-cigarettes, there was an immediate drop in e-cigarette use because the government put out warnings. And you know what happened? Those people went back to smoking cigarettes, and we know how dangerous they are. And just from knowing why cigarettes are dangerous and knowing about the ingredients in e-cigarettes, no scientist could ever really say e-cigarettes are even close to as harmful as cigarettes.
But we still don't know.
You may never know. You may never have that data. So my challenge to the government is operating in the real world where we have a lack of complete information. Do we tell people, quit or die, keep smoking cigarettes or die, or switch?
The problem is cigarettes have over 3,000 toxic and carcinogens. You can't even compare to the e-cigarette. Listen, Armstrong Williams, www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. We're live and we're talking about cigarettes. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. So obviously with the e-cigarettes, you're going to save a ton of money. It's less of an issue with bad breath, and you don't get that stinky smoke on your clothes.
There's no secondhand smoke.
No secondhand smoke.
No smoke.
Okay, go ahead. Answer that for us.
Well, e-cigarettes have no smoke because you're not burning any tobacco. So e-cigarettes, by their nature, have no secondhand smoke, no firsthand smoke. The only bad stuff you're getting is nicotine, which isn't really so bad as long as you don't become addicted to cigarettes.
should there be any involvement or any role from the government in this issue?
Well, I think, I'm not one of those people who says we ought to have zero regulation. I think there's an appropriate place for limited government regulation. The problem is we need to be aware of unintended consequences. We have to be aware of what's driving government regulation, which is often competition, the crony capitalism issue where you have pharmaceutical companies pushing the government to block e-cigarettes because pharmaceutical companies see these products as a threat to the Nicorette gum and the patch. So there's a lot of different factors coming into play, and I would encourage the government, when they're regulating these products, to keep it narrow. And instead what we're seeing is the government becoming more activist, more involved in these issues, and they're ignoring the unintended consequences of too much government regulation, of keeping people addicted to cigarettes, which is I don't think it's what they're trying to do, but that's the effect when you scare people away from using products like e-cigarettes. And they're using government resources to do this.
Here's what I say, and I'm speaking, to me this is just common sense.
That has no role in government.
It should have a role in government. For me, I'm thankful I'm not a smoker, but if I were smoking these electronic cigarettes, and I've been smoking them for a long time, if the FDA refuses to do this study and find out what the long-term effect is, for someone like me who goes to the doctor every year, twice a year for a checkup, I think my physician would be able to tell me immediately,
hey, I see you're not smoking.
If this electronic cigarette is having any kind of impact on my health, I think they would know. And
Absolutely.
I don't understand why so many people out there who's smoking the e-cigarette, who's smoking it, who have not gone to the doctor, let the doctor step in and give their input to say,
that's happening.
That's give us that study. I don't know.
Time.
That's just common sense to me. Okay.
There's a lot of common sense here, which, as I said, there's no role for common sense in government regulation, unfortunately. But there are examples of individuals coming forward all the time. They call into radio shows like yours and say, I can't believe the government is scaring people about e-cigarettes. They helped me quit. As a matter of fact, radio show hosts I've talked with, as you know, doing radio is a high-pressure job. People tend to smoke cigarettes. I know radio hosts who have quit cigarette smoking for 2 years now because of e-cigarettes. This is a concept called tobacco harm reduction, ways of helping reduce their risk from tobacco. And the government tends to want no part of this, whether it's the Food and Drug Administration, whether it's the Centers for Disease Control, which is using your taxpayer dollars to lobby against the use of smokeless tobacco, to try to get governments to raise taxes on smokeless tobacco products, which the state governments are doing all over the place, to put those Now, I'm against sin taxes. First, let me say, I'm against sin taxes. They're a bad idea. But if we're going to have sin taxes, the risk ought to be in line with the sin. And cigarettes are riskiest. Smokeless tobacco is far less risky. So why are governments coming in now trying to raise smokeless tobacco risk to put them on par with cigarettes, as they're doing in Massachusetts?
Dr. Belai, are you on the line?
Yes, hello. How are you?
Now, wait a minute. Let me say this. Dr. Belai is a physician. I wanted to get a physician in on this conversation.
Fantastic.
See, we work magic here. But let me say this. We know that cigarette smoking is a killer.
Absolutely. There's no question.
We also know that these e-cigarettes, they have none of these toxins, none of these carcinogens. They have none of this.
They don't have any tobacco even.
They don't even have tobacco in it. Dr. Belai, what are your thoughts on this issue of smokeless cigarettes?
That's a good one. In general, I am more inclined to look at the causes of the problem and try and fix the cause than the symptoms. In the sense, what we call addictive personalities, be it for alcohol, tobacco, cigarettes, sex, food, exercise, running, and even these political leaders. There's what we call charismatic leaders, compulsive users, compulsive buyers, compulsive users of cell phones or internet. A whole series of things, exercise, what have you. These are personalities referred to as addictive disorder or personalities, in the sense there is something in these people that drives them to do these things. Either it's insecurity, it could be all sorts of personal, biological, and other factors. What in effect there is that they are not comfortable with themselves, and therefore they continue to use different tools, different media. Now you're telling me about this non-nicotine cigarette and what have you. What in effect they're trying to do is, instead of facing the reality of accepting themselves and their situation and working on their challenges in a more creative and solution-driven environment, they tend to start having patterns, behaviors that tend to be a little bit sort of compulsive.
Well, let me say this. Let me tell you what my issue is here. This is a topic that I'm really agonizing over. But this is something that I think, to me, is critical to this debate.
Yes, sir.
It is not easy for someone to quit smoking. I've known people who have had a very difficult challenge to break their nicotine habit, to kick the habit, and they want so desperately to do so. And sometimes when they don't, it leads to their own demise. Mm-hmm. This e-cigarette is one of the few things that's in the market that allows them to at least have some alternative to smoking the cigarette that is less deadly, less costly, and has less health risk. I don't understand why the government and anybody else in their right mind would fight something. To me,
they should be promoting it.
They should be promoting it. To me, that's just common sense.
Well,
let me get. Wait a minute, doctor.
Government should not be involved in this type of. This is really a personality issue. It should be something that should be dealt with within the family, church, the doctor. That person needs to handle this thing by themselves with support from their own respective community. But involving government, I don't know why government should be involved in this.
Okay,
well, part of the reason is because the government and taxpayers are going to be on the hook for a lot of the costs of people smoking. So that's one reason. But the question is, and I agree with you that there are addictive personalities, and the question is, if you have someone that has an addictive personality that is going to be addicted to nicotine, let's at least have them use a product. Instead of having the quit or die approach, because those people are going to die, let's have an approach where we can share with them accurate scientific information to reduce their risk. I understand why the government wants to get involved, because all taxpayers are going to bear the burden of this. But wouldn't it be great if we had, I often have said, wouldn't it be great if we had a free market solution to the cigarette smoking problem? Here we do, and instead of supporting it, the government is interfering with it.
And trying to elevate it to the same tax level as the cigarette itself, which makes sense. But here's what you're not sharing with us. Who is it that the government is listening to take on this, what seems to be...
They're listening to a lot of left-wing driven plaintiffs' lawyers, activist groups, NGOs who have this quit or die mentality, the nanny state mentality, that they want to interfere. And what's happening is the Centers for Disease Control has been handing out grants using stimulus money and now Obamacare money to activist groups, local governments, to promote bans on e-cigarette use in Boston and other cities. They're using your taxpayer dollars to lobby for these bad ideas. Congress was so concerned about that last year that they changed the law and made it very clear, clarified the law, that federal dollars can't be used to lobby or promote legislation at the local level. The president's budget, which he unveiled this week, rolls back those protections, rolls back the transparency requirements of posting a website of how these dollars are being used, back to pre-Watergate era rules. Not only did they remove what Congress was so concerned about by placing restrictions on how these dollars can be used, but now the president talks about transparency in government when he gives a speech, but when he writes laws, when he writes proposed budgets, he unwinds that and brings it back to the pre-Watergate era rules where we who are watching what the government is doing can't even find out how these funds, your taxpayer dollars, are being spent to push bad legislation in cities and states.
Okay. My, of course, perspective is slightly different. I do not believe the government or governments or any government-related entities should be involved in this. This is something that the individual concerned, his family, his doctor, his church, and his community of friends should be involved in to support this person.
I agree with
Making it a government thing I think is too far. It's not useful. It's not supportive to the special needs of that person. Because when somebody is in this addictive personality and behavior, they are at different stages of their addiction. Initially, they might need to be admitted to hospital, then to rehab centers, and then sent into the community. So it has a range. So for the government to be prescriptive, I think, or trying to involve the government, unless somebody is pushing that drug or whatever that substance it is, really it's not beneficial to the person concerned. So,
fair enough.
Listen, there are many issues here, and it does seem to me that the government is Congress.
They make
that
our
is
laws.
Congress that is making the laws. I am just surprised that just common sense, a modicum of common sense, that someone has not taken up the banner to overturn some of these laws.
Well, last year the House of Representatives voted to stop the CDC slush fund, to say to the administration, because that's part of the government, you can't have this taxpayer money to lobby local governments. The problem is that the Senate did not pass the same bill, and it hasn't become law. And now the president, in his budget proposal, he didn't make the law, but in the president's budget proposal, which may pass, he's unwinding these transparency protections. He's removing the restrictions on how your taxpayer dollars could be spent to allow them to be used to lobby for proposals like bans on e-cigarettes, raising soda taxes, all of that stuff. The president is on record now being in favor of allowing government taxpayer money for these purposes.
Hold this point. We're coming back with all our guests. We're going to take this. We're going to switch you over to the risk department. We're going to talk about some other behavioral issues and continue to talk about this. Armstrong Williams, we'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sports shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show. WTNT, 7:30 a.m. 102.9 FM in our nation's capital. Sirius 128, The Power. WGCV, 620 a.m. our southern stations. And WGNU, 92.3 in St. Louis, Missouri. We're all over. And Gems 109.5 and all 22 Caribbean territories in the Bahamas. Yes, you listen to Armstrong Williams. So look, when they say that you had the risk analysis division. Are there other issues that you deal with?
Oh my gosh, food,
like drugs and
pharmaceutical, the fight against obesity, food safety, all sorts of health-related products. If it has to do with your health and government regulation, I'm on it.
You know, Dr. Belai, are you still with us, right?
Yes, I am. I'm listening.
That's a good thing to listen. That's when you learn. I tell people sometimes people say to me, Mr. Williams, you're not saying anything. I say, yeah, because I'm listening, because if we both are talking, somebody's not hearing. So somebody's got to shut up to listen. So anyhow, Dr. Belai,
yes, sir.
I mean, everybody's talking about Whitney Houston. It's not the kind of show that we usually do, but I do find the topic very fascinating. I've been just surprised at how many people are touched by her tragedy. And you think about Michael Jackson, and you think about Don Cornelius, you think about John Belushi, you think about Anna Nicole Smith, you think about Marilyn Monroe. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on about people. Kurt Cobain. I could just go.
There's nonstop to it.
It is nonstop. Talk about this issue of addiction with these fragile stars that are manufactured and created by the media. And I mean, I'm telling you, I think people are having a worse time accepting Whitney's death than they would their own family members. They feel so close to these artists. It just amazes me. I was touched by it. I must tell you, I was touched. Dr. Belai?
Yes, sir. This, what we call risk-taking behavior, addictive behavior, is all around us. Our leaders are addictive. We like their honesty, intelligence, creativity, charisma. But also, these are risk takers, what we call compulsive risk takers. They go for this pleasure they get out of taking risk. They say chemically it's something called dopamine, and endorphins are some of the chemicals that come about with all these people who take alcohol, cigarette, cocaine, heroin, pornography, eating, running, exercise, all these activities, they give them a high. So intelligent, creative people, like the ones you just mentioned, are also people who are more or less taking minor risks in their lives when they go out of their normal patterns of activities, and then to get those highs, they get involved in different things. You cannot stop them. If you stop them taking cigarettes, they will take cocaine. If not cocaine, it will be sex. If not sex, it will be running. If it's not running, I mean, they will do. It will be shopping. All these are activities, compulsive activities. They do because they get pleasure out of it.
Yep, and I can't argue with any of that, but given the nature of people that are like that, my goal from a science and policy perspective is try to make sure that the people who tend to take risks that are less harmful.
Deadly.
Less deadly, absolutely.
Well, the problem is you never know when you pass that margin whereby, it is okay, it will be considered a little, compulsive behavior, or it becomes deadly. And really, issues around alcohol, pills, and those activities that you can do by yourself to numb your feelings or to get these highs, and there's no supervision around you. If you realize almost all these guys or girls who die in these risky activities die because there's nobody around them. Whitney would not have died if there was her daughter, her mom, her husband, her boyfriend around her.
That was not the case. That was not the case with Michael Jackson.
Well, yes, that's very true. But Michael was such an addictive personality. He even fooled his own doctor to partake in the habit maintaining activity.
No. He did not fool him.
He paid him.
He purchased him.
That's what I meant when I say fool them with money. You fool people into being attracted to you either by giving them something or by doing things they like, or by, as you said, by paying them. So the doctor, who should know better, was paid into supporting that habit to such an extent they both collaborated in ending his life.
Let me ask you. Let me pose this question to Jeff Steir. What can we learn about addictive behavior. I mean, look, we all operate at a very high level, okay? Very high. And we all have compulsive behavior. We all, I say everyone has some kind of an addiction. But, in my culture, and I think your culture would be the same as mine, is that drugs is a no-no. For people in Congress, for people in the White House, it's a no-no. You can go to jail. It's frowned upon. In Hollywood, they see it as a
prerequisite.
It's a prerequisite. The industry that they're in allows it. They celebrate it, and they want to see you fall and come back again. And then they have all these wives and all these girlfriends and these different babies by different women. And then Brad Pitt leaves Jennifer Aniston and he marries Angelina Jolie, and it's nothing. Just think about the culture.
It's troubling, and I'm not familiar with all those names you mentioned because I don't know. I tend to follow what happens at the Food and Drug Administration more than Hollywood.
I have to follow everything in my industry because I have a lot of...
But, Armstrong, just to give you, this compulsion need not always be with substances or with behavior. It could be work. Some people are addicted to work.
I'm addicted to work.
I'd rather you be addicted to work than addicted to cigarettes.
I know. Of course I'm addicted to work. Everybody knows it. Who knows me?
It's like you're a capitalist or something.
Look,
Armstrong, the issue is if you do something too much above and beyond what your body normal rhythm is, then you have to compensate with something else when you get out of that high working environment. You either go for high alcohol, high sex, high pleasure,
exercise.
Look, let me just say this.
All of us have that.
Look, let me say this.
Stuff?
I like a little sex. Now, maybe not as much as everybody else does. I'm more of a guy of moderation. Look, the good thing about work, when you're here 6:30 in the morning, you don't leave until 7 at night, and you're in the gym at 4:30 in the morning. Oh yeah, I'm in the gym at 4:30 in the morning. By the time you get your butt home,
you got no energy for anything.
You collapse.
Yeah,
it takes care of some of your vices. You have nothing left in the tank, and then you start that cycle again. Sometimes what you got to do is starve your vices.
But what her name, Whitney and others did was their collapse is a final collapse, whereas yours is just a small collapse to be recovered fairly soon. So it's really the amount of what you mentioned as moderation is those activities that we do to ourselves.
Well, moderation is
our normal pattern. That is really the whole issue. What is normal for you, my brother, could be dangerous for me.
Doctor, I think you're onto something, moderation, which is something that a lot of the activists running our government today don't want to see any of. I would love to see more moderation in the fight against obesity, but they don't want any soda being consumed. I would love to see moderation in the discussion over tobacco policy, but they have an absolute prohibitionist approach, which is why they're even against things like e-cigarettes. If we had more moderation, we'd be in much better shape. Personal responsibility, private sector solutions to problems that the government is trying to come in and solve, and they're actually making them worse.
Is promoting extremes.
Yeah,
this pack meeting in these campaigns, these are extremes. You don't do those things in public. You remember what Gingrich said? Oh, I said this in a private setting in front of a television. You can't ask me these same questions in public in a meeting like this. What has happened is we've allowed ourselves to accept extremist behavior.
You know what? I think it's a little different. Look, I have to tell you this, okay? And look, we all struggle. Let me tell you something. It is not easy trying to be good and to live with moderation, because at some point, especially on the weekends seems like an eternity. You have so much time on your hands, and sometimes you just looking to get into something.
People need an outlet.
They need an outlet. But the thing about it, though, and I thank God that I'm older, is that I do have a navigation system. I do have a moral compass, okay? I am not...
Where did you get it, brother? Can you share that?
Best Buy, I think.
My parents. Listen, I am not going to do no drugs, okay? Listen, as hard as I work out to keep my... And I don't work out for the physique. I work out for the health benefits. I can see the difference. I don't like being obese. But look, I work out. There is no way I'm going to work out as hard as I do 4 days a week and inject myself with drugs. Look, I haven't taken medicine in 20 years. I won't even take medicine. I won't do it.
Well, so, you don't need to if you keep treating yourself right most of the time.
I work out. Look, I think it's the individual. Like people can offer you drugs. People can offer you. I've never taken an alcoholic drink in my life. I've never smoked any kind of cigarette in my life. That's just a choice I make. And once you build up a habit, you don't miss that which you never had. I think people have to take ownership of their lives and their choices.
But the government view today is against personal responsibility and in favor of government trying to dictate the choices we make, remove choices we make so we could all live the way they want us to live. And in doing so, we have unintended consequences. Instead of moderation, we live in a society where we think the government is going to keep us safe, when in fact there's no way the government could keep us safe. It does come down to individual personal responsibility and finding ways to deal with whatever issues you have without relying on the government to tell me what I can and can't
Even
do.
with the issue of cigarettes.
Especially with the issue of cigarettes.
Especially with the issue of cigarettes. Listen, let me go to my live stream here, www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. We have so many people on the live stream. Drugs are bad in Congress and on the Hill. Drugs are bad. People already know drugs are bad. They know the consequences of drugs. I mean, people have had enough lessons of people dying of an overdose of drugs and what drugs does to the body to know the consequence. But they don't care. Because they think they don't care.
How many people, a friend of mine said this yesterday on Facebook, how many people quit using heroin because of a government campaign against heroin?
We'll be back. Hold that. We're going to come back to your Facebook comment. Don't go away. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Now, Dr. Jesus Belai is our guest. Jeff Steir is our guest. You were telling us about the Facebook when we went out to break.
Oh, yeah. A friend of mine made a great comment, which is, have you ever seen someone quit heroin use because they saw a government commercial opposing drugs? I mean,
that made them want it more.
So the government, who could be if I say the government shouldn't be doing this type of advertising, does that mean I'm in favor of heroin use? No, I'm pointing out that this is a waste of taxpayer dollars that doesn't do any good and doesn't solve the problem.
Dr. Belai?
Yes, sir. Let me tell you, everybody has challenges with addictive personality. All of us, to a certain extent. Some of us manage them well. Some of us, succumb to some of these addictive behavior. like that, the government itself doesn't want to be seen not to be doing anything. So they're
great
trying
point. The
to
government,
behave.
you're 100% right, that regulators feel like they must fix problems even when they can't.
Yes.
And they say, oh, people are dying from this, we need to get involved, whether or not they could do any good. And government regulators, by their nature, they feel that they need to report back to the people that they've done something with their money.
Don't forget,
and they need to justify their own budgets to do more of it.
Yeah, people who go into government, these do-gooders, they go to church, all these, what you call social service type of people, leaders, these are themselves addicted. If they don't pretend that they're helping somebody else, they don't feel good about themselves.
That's a great point. They're addicted to more and more government, and the government is addicted to tobacco because they tax it so much.
Yes.
Maybe I'm addicted to free markets because I think the free markets could solve problems rather than the government.
I mean, all of us have this addiction. Nowadays, they call them nice, cozy words like passion. You need to have a passion. What they're saying, in effect, is that you have to have this very, very high drive to do something, to achieve something. And that is inculcated in us from early school. So, in effect, our culture is also promoting these extreme behaviors. To be on the news, you have to be extreme. In the class, to be popular, you have to do a little bit wacko, extreme stuff. So eventually, the desire to get somebody else's attention. These are all attention-seeking behaviors that manifest over a spectrum of activities. And really, all of us need attention. And perhaps this highly technological world,
Is that why people like me,
very lonely.
Doctor? Is that why people like me use Twitter? We need to get our message out to more people.
You are what you can be addicted to your cell phone, to your Twitter, to Facebook, addicted to internet, computers. I mean, literally, the list is unbelievable. Have you seen these young boys who spend hours and hours on computers and games? That is part of the same thing. But at the bottom,
is the government going to come
really
in? Doctor, my question for you is
people who do not have good relationship within their homes.
Yeah. Is the government going to come in and try to regulate our use of Facebook, Twitter, computers, games? Is that next?
Well, as much as you and I would like to use this, there is another guy from the government side who has this compulsion to regulate our lives.
Right.
So it is really, at the end of the day, you call it passion, you call it compulsion. It's
Addiction.
managing a balance between my passion and your passion. Your passion to do your computer thing, my passion to control your activity.
That's very well put. And when a government regulator's addiction starts to impinge upon my free rights, that's when I have a problem with it.
That's where we need a balance.
In the government, this comes out of something that's very noble, what they're trying to do. It's well-meaning.
The health of children.
Yeah.
And by challenging overzealous government regulators on children's health-related issues, they say, well, what, are you against children? Do you believe that we ought to not have regulations? I'm in favor of protecting children, but that doesn't mean that the government regulators must always be right and that industry must always be wrong.
At the end of the day, really, it's a balance.
And we cannot complete the conversation today unless we say to our audience, what is it that they can initiate in their own lives? Because it's not something the government can do. It's something that you have to do. What is it that you can initiate to combat these challenges, these addictions? What is it that they must do?
I think it's important that the public take personal responsibility for whatever challenges they have and not rely on the government, not rely on industry, but to do research, to get a better understanding of the issues, to listen to shows like this where you have access to accurate information about the issues and really take personal responsibility for whatever, as Dr. Belai says, whatever issues that you have, whatever compulsions you have, to learn about them, to learn how to manage yourself best and not to rely on the government to solve problems, but rather to absorb information to make good decisions for yourself because the government can't fix these problems.
I will only add to that and say that sometimes you yourself may not be able to help yourself.
Fair enough.
So that's the time when you look for advice from your family, your friends, your teacher, school, priests, or church. Or nowadays they have this thing called social media network. You can create groups of people with the same interest.
I'm sorry. because it's just so.
People get sucked in.
People get sucked in. It's just. Let me just say this. I think in the world, you must have a support system.
Yes, sir.
And it's not just your immediate family. You have to have people around you that reinforces your value system, your ambitions. You have to have people who reinforces the truth, who makes you accountable and responsible. And you know these people tell you this because they care about you. Because sometimes what we want to do is say, well, it's none of my business. If that makes them feel good, then I'm for my friend feeling good. But if drugs make your friend feel good for a moment, that moment is going to turn into something much worse if this continues to happen. So some people don't want to hear the truth. And it's so easy to just capitulate and not be honest. For me, I have a circle of influence where they are harsh with the truth. And I need that. And just like when I listen to people say, well, don't judge. My attitude is, if I'm doing something wrong, tell me. I don't ever want to believe that what I'm doing is right and you create a monster.
That's exactly
and I think it starts all there. I mean, the bottom line, you've got to have a core of people around you that grows you, and you grow them.
Well, that's personal responsibility.
Yes.
And it's complete anathema to the government approach, which is the government will take care of these issues. The government has a responsibility to regulate your life. And I think if we stepped up as individuals and communities to help tackle these problems, maybe there would be a way where the government would have less of a role and be less influential in our lives.
Well, the government is not really influential. It just put us in a lot of bad policies, and the matter is getting progressively worse.
We also
look at
need
Obamacare.
Direction, help with goal direction, creating rewards, enhancing self-efficacy. But sometimes if our support system itself is corrupted, or rather is all these addictive personalities getting together having fun, there should be some balance. And therefore, I think having family, friends, people who care for you, not because of what you can give them or because of your talent, but just for who you are. And sometimes having a mix of different types of people involved in your life is helpful. But at the end of the day, the government is nothing but us with lots of what I call addicted people running it. I mean, these people who are committed to help other people. If they cannot sleep, if they don't help other people, or if they don't see themselves pretending to help others. So government is us, where you have highly driven people trying to control our lives, get access to power.
Let me ask you.
Sometimes we need to contain those people too.
We want your final thoughts on where people can get more information about the cigarettes.
Jeff, there are a lot of good sources for information, but I'm with the National Center, nationalcenter.org, and I'm on Twitter. I know that if you're against social networks, I don't know, but I'm on Twitter at Jeff A., my middle initial A, Steir, S-T-I-E-R, S as in Sam, S-T-I-E-R. And follow me on Twitter because I follow and retweet a lot of the interesting information about how to reduce your risk, kind of an alternative to big government control in the health area, how the private sector can solve problems, how individuals can take personal responsibility. And I am a watchdog. My organization, the National Center, we keep an eye on what the government is doing and report it back to you.
Let me say this. Social media is a wonderful thing, especially when you can use it for your benefit as a business owner, when you can use it to empower others. But when you're on the social media looking for relationships, looking for love, I mean, it can be very dangerous. It goes back to your maturity and knowing how to navigate this and realize that it can also be very detrimental to you.
Like any other technology, it could be used for good or bad.
It can be used for good or bad. Dr. Belai, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you on every Thursday at this time. You're always provocative and add so much. Thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast.
And I want to thank you because you give me that special energy that I like, because that's where I get my high. So I appreciate that. I thank you.
Well, thank
Addicted
you.
to the arm.
Addicted. Some addictions are good. I know we're gonna have you back, Jeff. You're just. I just love your spirit. I love your commitment to these issues. And listen, we want to thank people on our live stream. You guys have been hot this evening. Remember, it's www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. And remember, coming up on Sirius 128, another Armstrong Williams show. Yes.
Thanks, Armstrong.
Yeah. And you know why I enjoy this? Because it's an addiction, baby. It's a good addiction. Some addictions are good. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this
is good.
And you know what? Making money is a good addiction as long as you know how to handle it.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
It's a good addiction. I never apologize.
I'm glad you're honest for saying that, because the government regulators these days think that's a bad thing.
No, that's why I'm saying it, because we're talking about the government. Making money. Money is never the root of evil. It's how people use that money that makes it evil. Money is a good thing. You remember that. Okay? And money is a verb. It needs to be active, not a noun. It cannot sit still. Remember that from Armstrong. My nuggets for the day. Take care, everybody.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time?